Hello, listener. Stir the Pot is a podcast about murder, crime, cryptids, and all things spooky. Naturally, there may be some content in these episodes that is uncomfortable to listen to. If you still think that this is the podcast for you, we'd love to have you join us. But if not, this is your official warning to turn back now. I'm trying to think of any other news, and it's literally all politics and like the Pope having pneumonia and shit.
Oh, yeah. Is the Pope, I keep meaning to Google, is the Pope alive?
He is.
Oh, real quick, welcome to Stir the Pot. We're about to go into this. I'm Velma.
I'm with Shaggy.
Yep, I'm with Shaggy, my bestie in crime. Michelle Tharper.
I love how we both just started drinking, like we were drinking water
right.
like mid-sentence.
Right.
We were like, this is the time.
This is the time I'm going to do this little intro real quick. I'm not even drinking water, I'm drinking Mountain Dew like a child. It's been a long day. Welcome to Stir the Pot. Your home of creepy stuff. But I was going to say Michelle Thurkenberg died.
Yeah.
What's her last name?
Great question, but there was another actor that died.
Who?
I can't think of his name right now, but I think they said that his, like, wife and dog were also found dead. Hold on.
Was that Richard Gere?
No.
I thought I heard that.
Actor. Yeah, with wife and dog. Gene Hackman.
Why did I get those two confused? You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman. Wait, he was the Kiss guy. No, who's Gene Hackman? Let me see a picture of this guy.
This guy. He's been in like a million things.
So how'd they die?
I don't know. I just remember hearing that it says Oscar winner Gene Hackman with his wife and their dog were found dead for some time. And they were found dead in their home.
Carbon monoxide?
And it says it's suspicious enough to require some investigation. There might have been a space heater that dropped. They tested gas lines but didn't find anything. So I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
But it was a maintenance worker that called 911 and couldn't get in the house and said they saw them like lying on the floor through a window.
That's always so scary to
Yeah.
think of something like that. Will you look, since you've got your phone next to you, will you look up Michelle's last name so I can be respectful? Because I want to be respectful to this person that died because I was Harriet the Spy. I loved Inspector Gadget. And nobody, you're even looking at it at me. You're not even, what does it say? Let me see. Trachtenberg.
Yes.
Yeah, Michelle Trachtenberg. I didn't want to mess up your name. I'm very sorry. I was a huge Inspector Gadget fan. I feel like in all the things that they're mentioning about her, they're not mentioning Inspector Gadget with, like, Matthew Broderick, and that was, like, a staple.
It was good.
Yeah! I thought it was, that got me, like, I started watching the show Inspector Gadget, like, the cartoon after that movie, because, and that's what got me to start liking Matthew Broderick, that, you know, never saw Ferris Bueller.
You know what I was watching the other day with him, too?
What?
I have, like, Disney Plus for a couple more days, and I'm just trying to cram it all in. So I was starting Lion King 2, and he's the voice of Simba in that. And I was just like, what do you mean?
He does have a very young voice.
Yeah, but he was like, it's adult Simba that he's voicing in the second one.
In the cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
From, like, a while ago?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
What a choice.
I don't think I've ever watched it, and I stopped watching it yesterday. I was like, let me do something else, but...
Oh, wow. Because I know, like, when he was younger, Simba, meaning, it was JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, as the young Simba, then to be Matthew Broderick. That's a weird transition.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, speaking of transitions, I know I'm going off on 8 tangents already, and we literally just said I had nothing to talk about. So... I was not a Friends fan, but for some reason the Matthew Perry death, like, really struck home. Like, I don't know why, I just thought it was, like, really, really sad. And they did that movie 17 again with Zac Efron playing a young him. And Zac Efron has, like, come out and said, like, I would like to play Matthew Perry in, like, a story of his life or whatever.
That's cute.
And I, like, hope beyond hope that really actually happens.
Yeah.
Just like, okay... kind of unrelated, but related. Just like that one guy keeps getting emails saying that he needs to play Luigi in the Luigi movie. The Franco brother.
Yes.
Younger Franco. What's his name? Not James.
No, not James.
The one that was in
I know who you're talking about.
Eric? No. That sounds terrible.
I just want to say Jimmy for fun.
Yeah. Why do I want to say Eric? I want to say something with an E.
Dave.
Fuck me.
There's an E at the end.
Yeah, see,
you just have to flip it and reverse it, you know?
Flip it and reverse it. Jesus Christ. This is going to be an episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of Zac Efron, though, I just saw a video of him on Instagram earlier from, like, years ago where he was at, like, the Lorax premiere or something, and someone said he dropped a condom out of his pocket.
Oh, my God.
It's just, like, the most random thing.
I like him. I know he's nuts. And, like,
yeah.
I also laugh because I feel like he can do a little bit of everything, and he's kind of down to earth. However, I am not seeing the movie with him and Nicole Kidman for reasons of my own.
See, I watched that, and I don't think you need to see it. It was weird.
Well, Nicole Kidman had 2 movies come out like that, kind of back, this one and then like that one Baby Girl or whatever it was called.
I didn't see that one.
Do you know what one I'm talking about?
No.
It's like, it's supposed to be like almost a horror movie where she gets in like a relationship with a very dom man, but like they make it out to be like villainistic, which we don't kink shame here, you know?
Yeah.
But like it gets fucking weird. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways. Back to what we were wanting to talk about. First thing, what was Jack the Ripper's name? You want me to say it?
Aaron Kosminski.
Kosminski.
I can't see your writing from that far away.
That's okay.
I tried.
Aaron Kosminski. Yeah.
Which Aaron is, like you said, wild name for that time period.
I don't remember an Aaron, like, from that time. Aaron. Maybe that was what it was. Aaron. Aaron. Yeah, a very weird name. And how did they figure this out?
So I think it's the like great granddaughter. Mm-hmm. They had gotten her DNA from something, and then they were able to like build a family tree, which is perfect for what I'm going to talk about in the episode today. It's like the exact same thing.
That family trees are terrifying?
Family trees are terrifying, and there's like some
23andMe?
Wild statistics, and yeah, you shouldn't do 23andMe, but even if you don't, they know everything about you. The government. I know! I go down that spiral, and I sound like a crazy person, but I also just, it's so crazy. Yeah. How can I not? Like, they want you to sound like a crazy person.
Exactly! I have successfully talked my sister out of doing DNA testing. However, they are also in the military. Or like military adjacent. Yeah. And because of that, they've got her kids' DNA on file and my brother-in-law's DNA on file. So eventually, you know, whatever. But no, don't do that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Jack the Ripper's name. We'll have to. I have not done an episode on Jack the Ripper, so we'll have to do that now that we know who it is.
Yeah.
That would be a fun one.
Yeah.
It's
because I think they said they had like. Thought it might be him for years, and then they got like the DNA from the Shaw like tested or whatever in like 2017 or whatever, and now it's only just like officially on record or whatever.
Because even though there's not new sciences coming out, meaning like when DNA hit, DNA was a huge development. Before that, it was like fingerprinting and things like that, but like DNA was like people didn't necessarily believe it. Like, it was a huge new science that they didn't understand. So we're not necessarily getting new sciences, but the sciences that we do have are still, like, especially with this AI shit and everything else going on, it's still increasing very rapidly. Yeah. So that's what's happening is they're doing a lot of tests on, like, old cases, and that's why it's, like, it's the come to of, like, all these serial killers and shit being found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Did you watch the Gabby Petito?
I started the first episode and then I fell asleep and I have not had the time to go back to it.
I've been hearing some weird shit about it. Like,
really?
Yeah, but like I don't know. I thought I knew what was going on, but like in my like I don't really have a feed, but like on YouTube and whatever, like people are talking about that like he's still alive.
Okay, so I had heard that when like the whole thing originally happened.
Right.
But I haven't watched the episode and I want to know more. But it's,
And then I'm also currently finishing the Natalie Grace. That was the little girl that was adopted from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
They now have a 3rd season that came out, which, calm down, okay? Like, as much as, like, I'm glad that she is safe.
Yeah.
3 seasons, come on. Like, what do we really need to know 3 seasons about this poor girl? Let her live a life. Like
Right.
let her do her thing.
Yeah.
Stop making everything on television.
Right. The way that reality TV has kind of busted into everything
Yeah.
is insane. Like, even the Gabby Petito thing. Like,
yeah. Well, I have one of my wild conspiracies. Da-da-da-da.
we need a sound effect for
Right.
conspiracy. Oh, that's a good one.
So, one of my wild conspiracies is I think FBI and police and law enforcement and the media, primarily I think Netflix, but I'm not going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
The media have an agreement because there's no way that they could have come out with a P. Diddy documentary so close. Like, it was like months after he was arrested. Yeah. Like, how were they able to get that much information, that much edited? Like, I know that they have a lot of money and they can pay for people, but like,
right, still.
There's got to be some type of like communication that they have.
That's interesting.
Not because that way, and not necessarily like going through like news outlets, because that's, you know, but like to be able to make the story so that way Netflix can make money,
right, or
whoever can make money off of the story to make the first documentary about it,
right. Because even getting, like, the rights to the story is a whole step and a whole process.
Right.
So, yeah.
And when they are able to, like, get it so fast and come out with a documentary that, like, already has all the shit together.
Right.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. But yeah, so that's a conspiracy theory that I have to do. So anyways, I'm going to ask the question first today.
Okay.
And like you said, this one I feel, Shaggy doesn't know the question. But it's my would you rather. Would you rather receive an invitation from an anonymous host to a night that threatens to transform your very existence?
Okay.
Tell me that doesn't sound like Rocky. Like, or receive a phone call from a supernatural force that offers to grant you one wish in exchange for a sacrifice of its choosing.
Oh, I'm going with the first one.
Me too.
I want to go to this dinner party. The problem with the second one is I don't know what my wish would be. And I would take too long to think about it, and I just feel like I wouldn't be happy with it. But a little dinner party, play some games, maybe
transform your existence.
Yeah, who knows what could happen?
I think I agree with you on this one.
I mean, it could be really spooky, and it could have
could be like that one guy that does the torture. Horror,
it could be torture, haunted house. It could be like Get Out vibes.
Yeah.
It could be like
But if it's one night,
like a rich guy hunting me, I don't know.
It doesn't say that I'm dying.
Yeah,
you know?
It's gonna transform things. Maybe I'll be really rich, or maybe I'll just have a really good dinner and find a library in this mansion and curl up and nobody will know. I'm transformed because I'm learning.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Do some drugs.
Yeah,
you know, like find some mushrooms or something,
right.
And that sounds actually, I'd probably do that.
And that one just I don't know if it was the way you read it, but that one just sounds so much more dramatic and inviting.
Well, because when I was reading it, I was like receive an anonymous to host a night threatens to transform your very existence. Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, as soon as I was reading that, I was like, oh, that feels like actually targeted. So I'm gonna read that one. And we were talking about Clue. Yeah. So that was another thing we were talking about. Yeah. So yeah, we did Rocky together. I think I talked about that before that I did Rocky, but we were in it together. Yeah. It was a good time.
It was fun.
For what it was. And now it's time for...
That was kind of long.
Yeah. But it's time for the reefer report. I was like... So I had the edibles about 30 minutes ago. So I'm already great. But I'm not doing the episode today. So I'm doing green apple... The green apple flavor from Mittens Extracts. It's a hybrid. They're 20 milligrams each, and I did 4 of them, so about 80 milligrams. Even though I got a new job at a pot place, a marijuana place, I'm actually smoking less. So I feel like things, just because I'm so tired. So I feel like things are... They hit me pretty good about 15 minutes ago. But if you see us at the end of the episode, I'll give you the reefer review.
I love the way you say that. That's so fun.
Thank you. I stole it. I can't.
I still think it's great.
I stole it. Yeah. I'll have to show you who I stole it from because they do it better. Okay. They absolutely do it better. But I stole it. I can't take credit for it.
That's okay.
You know who you are. Don't rat me out, please. I'm soft.
Okay. So,
what are we talking about today?
Okay, so I told you that I had gotten fingerprinted for a job recently.
Yeah.
And that just made me go down the biggest rabbit hole about DNA.
Same.
Because I was like, I don't know how this works really. Because they just do it. And like, I know how it works, but like, how does it work?
Yeah.
And so I was just wanting to look up how fingerprinting works, and I didn't get that answer because I found a million other things.
Right.
So today we're going to be talking about DNA and genealogy. And I have like 2 cases that I think are really interesting about it.
Quick, I have talked about this so many times that 23andMe is a problem, and you are just going to prove every point that I have, correct?
Exactly.
Ah, this makes me excited.
Okay, so first I have some little statistics and like how this works.
Okay.
So we know 23andMe and the ancestry guys, and they're not the best, but
they had a massive quit not too long ago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good. So all of that data gets stored in a little database, and there was one other website called GED Match where people could upload their like DNA results, and it was supposed to be like finding long lost relatives, birth parents, like super helpful things. But it ended up being used to solve crimes because access was given to law enforcement without user consent. And even now, there's like a little opt-out button, but it's kind of hidden. But like
an opt-out button, okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That's real easy to just like overlook.
Right.
And like
especially with all the like agree kind of things.
Yeah, but I mean also like even if somebody gets convicted and they're like in a court of law and they're like, well, I hit the opt-out button. What the hell is that really going to do? Like,
right.
And so were all of these ones that you're going to talk about today convicted through GED?
They were convicted through genealogy, not specifically through that, but it's kind of this process. So it started, that kind of thing started in 2018 with that specific website, and it was helpful because they solved like 30 cold cases. So they were using it, but they were using it to check for DNA across like just the database. And then in 2019, the Department of Justice set some guidelines so that they could only use it for like violent crimes like rape, murder. If you're not trying to find, like, the name of a Jane Doe or whatever. Super helpful.
Yeah.
Great for DNA. But then not all of those cases were using a direct match. And it was a thing where the detectives could trace back through your family tree with DNA. Even if you've never given a sample, you could be caught through someone else's DNA.
Okay, so can you give me an example? Like, I think I follow that, but just so that way, like...
Yeah, so, like, if, like you said, your sister's kids have their DNA given, they could take a sample of, like, a DNA at a crime, and you can be convicted if it's your DNA, even if you never gave that sample. Because there's this fun statistic that GED Match has 5% of the U.S. population in their database, and 60% of the population can be identified with just that small sample that they have.
What?
So if you, it changes based on like your race, right? So if you're like European descent, they could, there's a 60% chance that they can find you if like a third cousin is in there or like a random relative. And then it drops to 40% if you're of African descent. But they said that if they get 2% of the population for the United States, 90% of people could be found. So I just thought that was so creepy.
I hate everything
because I would never give my DNA to Ancestry.
No.
But they could still find me. Not that I'm doing anything.
No.
But like I don't like that.
No, that's none of their. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which now like all of my like cousins have done it. Now I realize that like it really doesn't matter if I do it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
At this point,
like if you want to do it for fun, like it really doesn't matter because they have your DNA anyways enough to be able to convict you of a crime. Whoa. Which is how the Jack the Ripper thing worked. Like his great granddaughter did something, and now this guy who didn't have a DNA sample in there.
So like, okay, there's a lot to unpack there because I feel like if they used it to like, and they could see like, oh, well, this looks like it could be their dad, but we have to get 100% match before we can do anything.
Right, you still have to, like, go through that whole process, but, like, they're going to be able to find you really regardless now, which is just crazy. Like, 2% of the population, you can find 90% of people? That's wild. That's insane.
I hate that.
Like, there was something that I read, too, that was, like, even internet sleuths can, like, figure this out, too.
Yeah.
And so they took, like, 1.3 million people and narrowed it down to 20 for a specific case.
Whoa.
And that's just insane to me. And also, these databases now, too, have stuff that they're not supposed to have given to, like, detectives. So, like, eye color, diseases that you have that can get passed down. Like, they have all that information, and they're not supposed to have that.
So detectives know more about my health than I do.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and your relatives.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to have that information. It's just supposed to be for severe cases and stuff, and it's just for it's just there.
I didn't realize that DNA tests also tested for
well, I think there's
medical
different
stuff.
ones that you do. Like,
Yeah.
like, I know I had one, like, a little swab done for medicine, and it's like, well, now they know.
Yeah.
Now they know.
Yeah.
And I always get stupidly paranoid about DNA things, because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, freak out. Like, I touch more things in places than I realize. And then as soon as I notice that, I'm like, well, what if, like, I get a paper cut at your house, and then there's a freak thing that happens, and then they find my blood there, and I'm convicted of a crime.
Right.
And, like
what's
jumping
gonna
down
happen?
so many hoops that aren't going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't kill anybody.
Right.
But, like, it's just, when you think about it, it's wild.
Yeah.
And that's such a small sample of people that they need to be able to find pretty much anyone.
Yeah. Oh, shit. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
That's wild
yeah.
to me.
they just keep building these family trees and then finding people for cold cases, which is helpful. I love
in a lot of
that.
ways.
That's great for a lot of people. Just helps give a lot of people closure. Solving cold cases, great.
Yeah.
But
We're-
also,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. My body, my information. Like,
Right. Yeah. So anytime I'm like, they just know so much about you. There's
Yeah.
no escaping it.
Right,
Like,
that's
all the people that
crazy.
are like, they're microchipping me. Like, what do you think they don't know about you
Yeah,
already?
they already know everything else.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever see that movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
No.
It was like where like it was a long time ago, but like now some of the stuff is like kind of almost realistic. But like where anytime you'd enter a building or whatever, you'd have to look up, and the way instead of like a scanner for your car, they scan your eyes.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so like the only way that you could like hide from anything is you had to like get an eye black market eye swap.
Interesting.
Yeah. Blech. Anyways, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously it's a good thing. Solving cold cases is fun. But it can also really turn people's lives upside down. And so today we're going to be talking about the Baby Garnett case.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But
Maybe.
Setting the scene. It's 1997.
Okay.
And we're in Michigan.
Okay.
And it's like a small town. I think it was like Robin Way or something.
Oh, cute. Okay.
Cute little town. Even now, the population's really small. Like, whatever. And so this is taking place in Garnett Park Campground.
Okay.
And while the, like, maintenance guy was cleaning the outhouses one day, he noticed that there was a clog in the tube. He went over to check it, and he found human remains. And
All right.
yeah. So just immediately, like,
Welcome home. Here's a bone.
yeah.
Like. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that just.
And so, like, first looking into that, I was like, okay, well, obviously, like, was there a missing person? Like, what's happening right now? And so they did an autopsy, and they found out that it was female infant remains, and she was about 36 to 42 weeks old. So, like, real newborn.
Baby.
Real baby.
And it was in the maintenance water pipe?
No, it was in the outhouses. They were
Outhouses.
cleaning them out, and in the, like, hose, it ended up getting stuck, and there were
In
human
an
remains.
outhouse?
In an outhouse.
Oh my god. Okay.
So, like, I had so many questions.
Yeah. How old, like, how long had it been there?
Right. How long was it there for? Whatever. But they couldn't figure out anything.
I have a weird question.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask this question.
Okay.
But because you know how, like, heat can make a body decompose faster. Does,
Ooh. I don't know.
fecal matter
Yeah.
I
I don't know how full the outhouse was.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is it
I don't
porta
know.
potty style?
Yeah.
And it's like fully preserved, like bog bodies, or is it like being burnt like
That's
your
a
flesh
really good
alive?
question,
Okay.
and I don't want to know the answer.
Me
but
neither.
I
I
also
don't
want to
either.
know the answer.
I don't know why I asked it. I don't know why
Yeah.
that's the first question that I had, but
Right.
let's go ahead and go on. So this
Yeah.
infant baby.
So this infant baby, and they ended up naming the baby Garnett because he was found at Garnett Park. Had no other information. no reports of any missing child, no leads, no witnesses, like literally nothing. So in the small town, the case just like hangs over everybody. It's talked about for years. Everybody knows it's a big deal. So now we're going to fast forward to 2017. Okay. And then the DNA genealogy thing just is starting to come up, and the detectives out there are like, let's see if we could figure something out here. Like, let's see if this will help us. Yeah. So they're pulling out the cold case, trying to get the FBI involved, figure that out. And then in 2021, they ended up being able to, like, get the remains and take some DNA sampling so they can see if they can find any sort of lineage for this baby. Yeah. So now we're in 2022.
Okay, so it took a while.
So it took a while for them to get that together. And Jenna Gerwatowski, who's like 23, ends up getting a phone call from the Michigan police and says that her DNA is a match to the case.
This is really... Okay, she couldn't have been, because in 2017, she would also be a baby. No, I mean hold on.
In 1997.
In 1997, she would still be a baby.
Right.
Yeah. So that couldn't have...
Right, so she gets this phone call, and she's like, this has to be fake. Yeah. And immediately just thinks it's a scam, because apparently, like, her grandfather or whatever got scammed by someone saying that they were detectives. So she was on edge, and her mom was like, nope, this isn't a thing, like, don't worry about it. And so they told her that a genealogy investigator would try to get in contact with her, because if it wasn't her, it would be a closer relative. And she's like, well, how did anybody get my DNA, though?
Oh, so she didn't even do a DNA test.
So she didn't know how they got their DNA, but she had taken an ancestry test 6 months prior, and because they were building the genealogy thing from the remains, her DNA matched to it.
Oh, and this is Ancestry. This isn't even GED.
No.
Oh, so Ancestry is also giving...
Yeah, it all connects because it all goes to the same place.
Okay. I don't love this.
Yeah.
Remember when I was literally telling you about a horror movie that I thought would be like a good, interesting, like mystery horror movie not too long ago, where like a case comes up from like 1987, they do a DNA test, remember? Mm-hmm. They do a DNA test, and it's a 100% match to this person that wasn't even alive at that point. Yeah. And so now this person like goes on the run and is trying to explain to them like, hey, I wasn't alive, but they don't believe him. Like, wouldn't that be like a... But, like, this is real life, though.
Yeah, this is real life. So,
whoa, okay.
6 months prior, she took this DNA test for funsies or whatever and didn't think anything about it.
Only 6 months.
6 months.
When, like, DNA from John Benet Ramsey's case or somebody else's takes years. Yeah. 6 months, and they... Okay.
Yeah. Listen. So 6 months, and she gets this phone call, and she's like, it's a scam. Because she didn't even piece together that Ancestry meant that the cops or anybody had her DNA. Because you would think that if you're giving it to these people, you're just giving it to those people, really. Like, that's how it really should be.
Yeah. I hate this.
So, yeah. So, she's going to be contacted by an investigator, and the investigator ends up getting in touch with her, and they want her password for her DNA, like, login that she did. And now she's really even more concerned that it's a scam. Because that just sounds so fake.
Right.
Like, the whole...
Detectives can be real dense sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched so many interrogations, and, like, one of my favorites, I think it's EWU, Explore With Us. They, like, will audibly talk about, like, the psychology of what the detectives are doing and why they're doing it. And sometimes, like, with all due respect, the detectives aren't doing anything. They're just kind of getting lucky because they're real dense. Yeah. The person's not really giving you anything. Yeah. You're just walking into this.
Right.
Like, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? Okay. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. She keeps ignoring the phone calls that she's getting from these people. And her cousin apparently worked in, like, the county prosecutor's office. And he came and visited her and was like, this is a real thing. Like, stop ignoring these calls. You could be in real trouble if you don't take them. So, like, she ended up saying that this was just, like, super scary, super random. And, like, yeah, if I was in her shoes, I would probably be like, what is this? This is so... Especially if I didn't even give a DNA test. Yeah. And, like...
How is this all happening?
Right. How is this happening? What's going on?
Without explanation. Like, that's what... If you're going to do this, instead of just saying, hey, we're... Be like, hey, we would like to have a conversation with you. There's some information. Like, let's start here. then go from there. Don't
but
say,
even
hey,
then,
you matched to the crime.
Yeah.
Like, start small.
Yeah. Even then, though, like, cops are so scary.
Yeah.
That...
They are.
For so many people, in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That, like, anything around that is just, like, immediate terror.
Right.
And, like, what did I do wrong? And how do I get out of this when I know it wasn't me?
Right. Well, like, literally, like, it was so many years ago.
Right. So she ends up calling the investigators back, gives them their password, all of that information, and the DNA kit showed that she was the half-niece to baby Garnett.
Half-niece. So, hold on, I'm trying to figure out. So that's sibling to the mom, sibling to the dad, sibling to one of them. Kid, but half. So, like...
So a lot of, a lot to trace back.
My brain can't do this.
Yeah, the half part is where my brain is like, I can't.
Half niece, half sister, half sister, half sibling, half niece. I'm doing my best here.
Do you need to, like, write this on paper in front of you?
I don't understand how you could be a half niece. Hold on. Okay. So, let me do, like, me.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried doing that for 2 seconds, and I was like, I'm just going to trust what this article says, because I'm
just going to Google it later.
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck this. Because I don't understand okay.
Okay, so anyway, she's a half-niece to the baby Garnett, and she's like, this case has, like, hung over this town for years, like, everybody's just kind of freaking out about it. And so, her mom, Jenna's mom, is named Kara, and she kind of says that, like, the pieces started falling together then. And she hadn't talked to her mom since she was 18 for whatever family reason.
Yeah.
And so Jenna never even met her grandmother, but they started to think that it's the grandmother Nancy who was the one behind the crime. So now Nancy, who's 60 years old at this time, that all of this is going down.
The half niece to the baby.
Yeah.
So, okay. Okay. I'm getting it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now Nancy is 60 years old, lives in Wyoming, has her own life, ends up getting called in. She originally stated that the child wasn't hers, and then ended up calling back later to speak with detectives and gets arrested for this crime.
Okay.
So, which is already kind of wild to me. Like, this person who thought that, whatever, they got away with something, like, so many years later, has their own life, probably hasn't thought about it in forever, to some extent, like, depending on what happened, and now they're getting arrested.
Right.
So let's talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured out how they could be half, though.
Okay.
So would you like me to explain
Absolutely.
to you? Okay. So here's Nancy, okay? So then she had Kara and Jenna. So then she had baby Garnett. So the way that they would be half is baby Garnett was with one guy one, and then this was with guy two.
Perfect.
See?
Okay. Thank you.
Huh.
Thank you for showing your work.
Thank you. Can I get an A?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had some stickers or something. Like, I really tried to think about it, and then the half part was really throwing me off.
Me too, because then I was, like, thinking, I don't know why I was thinking, like, that the baby Garnett and Jenna were, like, on the same level.
Right.
On the tree.
Yeah.
But that's not correct.
Right.
It's a generation even above that.
Right, yeah. So, it was, it took a minute.
Yeah. Cool. I'm with it. Okay.
So what happened? In 1997, Nancy was pregnant. So I think she's, like, what, maybe 30-ish at that time? And she was going through a divorce, and she was pregnant, but she didn't know who the father was, and she kept the pregnancy hidden.
Clearly not the husband's. That's where the half came in.
I hope. I just think this is, like, the really funny way for him to find out is a random podcast talking about it, not even the case.
And he's like, oh, fuck. Clearly it's not the husband's. Sorry, buddy.
But so she didn't know who the baby's dad was, hid the pregnancy, and she went into labor while she was alone at home. And apparently the baby got stuck while it was halfway out, and she lost consciousness. And when she came to, the baby was blue, and the umbilical cord was, like, not around its neck or whatever, and it wasn't breathing.
Okay.
So the baby...
Nobody else was there.
Nobody else was there for her to validate that either.
Yeah.
And it's 1997. She doesn't have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
She also apparently didn't have a landline or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so when after that happened, she put the baby in a bag and dumped it on the campground on her way to her mom's house.
Okay.
And so this is kind of where I don't know how I feel about it.
Okay.
Because, like, you obviously shouldn't do that.
No.
We know that.
No.
But, like, she was home alone.
Yeah.
And it's not like she intentionally...
She panicked.
Right. She panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going through a lot.
Yeah.
So the state claimed that because the child died to asphyxiation, the death could have been prevented if she had some sort of medical intervention, and she didn't seek that, so that's why she's getting charged with a crime here. Because she didn't go for medical help.
Were they able to prove that the baby was, like, strangled like that?
Well, that's the thing, is the state and her whole defense was that, like, you can't prove for sure that the baby was born alive.
Yeah.
Like, the baby could have been born dead.
Yeah.
So how are you really, how is this going to hold up?
She lost consciousness and she's not pushing, like, something could have
happened.
Right.
Anything could have happened. And so through the whole DNA thing, they were also able to find the father, and he's considered a victim in this case.
If she didn't let him know, I don't disagree.
Right. He's considered a victim, and she's being charged with open murder, involuntary manslaughter, concealing the death of an individual, and is facing a life sentence as a 60-year-old woman. Which I was having a lot of feelings about. Because I kind of feel for her on some extent.
Okay. First things first. What she did was wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot condone what she did.
Correct. Absolutely.
Don't hide a pregnancy.
Right.
Don't try to give birth alone.
Right.
Don't... If you're that pregnant, make sure at least one person knows what's going on.
Yeah, and if you like, she shouldn't have dumped the baby's remains. Could have called somebody, did something, went to the police station.
If all of those things happen, you do wake up from being unconscious and the baby's dead, call the police and then get it taken care of that way.
Right, but she also didn't have a phone.
Right.
So it's a whole
But just because even at some point, even though I'm anti-DNA, I also am pro mouse paper trail or whatever. Right. So that way, like, in the event of, like, even the O.J. Simpson trial, which I will refer everything back to, there was so much that led up to it where she had called for domestic violence. Right. Things like that. Right. So, like, even her calling saying, hey, this is the baby, this is what happened, get those breadcrumbs there. Sorry, okay.
No. So that was kind of that case, and now she's facing the sentence as a 60-year-old woman, which, like, now the life that she had for herself. Like, if this could have been a really traumatic experience for her, which to some extent, obviously it was. Like, she lost a child, which I don't know what she was planning on doing since she hid the pregnancy. Yeah. But, like, you know, regardless, now it's kind of being dragged up for her. And then there was a similar story to this when I was doing this research about baby Andrew, who was an infant whose remains were found on the side of the road in a ditch in South Dakota back in 1981. Somebody found the body. There was a lot of evidence, but, like, everything got destroyed before it was tested and before that whole thing was happening. And so they ended up doing the same DNA genealogy thing, just like now. And it was a young girl who was 19, didn't know she was pregnant, and had the baby and the child wasn't breathing. And so she wrapped...
Oh, she was 1981. Okay.
Right. So she wrapped up the baby's remains and put him in the ditch. And that's where he was found by, like, a passerby. And so there's medical records for this case that, like, shows that the girl wasn't seeking any sort of, like, treatment for pregnancy. Like, she really didn't know what was going on. And that also said that the baby was premature. And so... They exhumed...
And it was found, like, right after she put it there? Or, like, how, like, was it...
A little bit after, yeah. And so the baby's body was exhumed. They did the DNA. They connected it to a distant relative. And there was also information in this one where she, like, had a second hidden pregnancy. And her parents heard, like, crying from the room and were like, okay, you're having a baby. Like, let's take care of this. But so she now... This, like, came about in, like... 2021 resurfaced, and so she was also 60 years old, And she was charged with first-degree murder and faced a 40-year sentence, which ended up being, like, down to 10. Mm-hmm. But the real thing that got me in this was they were discussing the case, and they're like, it would be the wrong message if we didn't charge her with this crime. Which feels gross to me. Yeah. And especially, like, where everything is politically. Yeah. With women's bodies and stuff.
Yeah. Which, like, once again, what she did was wrong. Just like the one before.
Right.
However, there are people that get off with 10 to 15 years that murder their wives.
Right. Like way worse crimes, and it's either if they have money that they get off with things, right, or like whatever happens in the case and they just walk. Right. And you're charging both of these older women.
For murder, manslaughter, for something like...
Right.
That they probably... One of them may not have known. Right. I feel like Nancy
kind of fucked up.
Nancy fucked some shit up, especially... politely, especially being 30 years old.
Right.
And I don't mean that to be rude because I'm also 35, but like, I'm just thinking of me like now having something like that happen, and to me that's just ignorant.
Right.
Like, don't not tell somebody, don't...
Right. As a 19-year-old...
As a 19-year-old,
a lot more sympathetic.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a little bit more sympathetic.
Yeah.
But at the same time... they shouldn't have been charged with as much that they were charged with. Like, right. This is intense.
Right, it's real intense.
And the fact that, like, you found this out through all this DNA shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can include this. So you're so focused on these babies that are being born, whether they're alive or dead or whatever, but then there's, like, multiple children in communities that are being taken, mm-hmm. or multiple women that are being taken from indigenous places or... like, minorities or whatever, and it's completely overlooked.
Right.
But then these two babies, you know, right. because they're babies, they could have been born alive.
And that's the thing.
And they're going to go ahead and go after
that's really the thing that got me on it partially, is that whole, like...
priorities.
Yeah. Where like you said, mm-hmm. so many people are getting charged with things mm-hmm. and going, like, a couple years for raping, like, 7 people, and it's mm-hmm. fine, it's cool, but... like, these women had a traumatic experience. Might not have handled it the best way. Yeah. Absolutely not. Right. But
I don't know if they've ever caught the guy. Granted, this is an article or something I was reading a couple years ago. Could have been more like 7 years ago. But there was a serial killer that was a known serial killer in Chicago that was murdering black women and putting their bodies in dumpsters. Specifically, I remember reading about this, and I never remember any of that coming to light. No. And even if it did come to light, they don't talk about it. Where is it?
What happened? So that's
why I don't know. So
right, where's that Netflix show?
Right, but then at the same time, we're gonna get a Netflix show about Andrew that we don't even know. It was premature. He had all these other problems. Right. Yeah. Like, we don't even know the situation.
Yeah. And so there was another thing that they were talking, and they were like, well, they'll be especially in the baby Andrew mm-hmm. case. Where they were like, well, she's 60 now, but her sentence is only 10 years. So she'll be back with her family now by the time she's 70. And that's just kind of, like, really ignorant. Yeah. Like, she built this whole life for herself now. And now that's also being taken away from her.
And that's not fair. Like, right. She did something she shouldn't have done. Mm-hmm. But, like... yeah. Yes, she should be punished. Yes, I agree that there should be something to say, hey, you can't do this. But at the same time... being 60 years old and not being able to, like, I just don't understand why the priorities lie here. Why are these the cases that you're going after?
Yeah. And then the other thing that I read too, like, this is the one that got me real emotional and, like, really into it, was that the, like, people on her defense were saying, well, she didn't kill her kid. Like, she lost her son. Yeah. Like, that wasn't... she didn't murder anybody. Yeah. She had a baby that, like, died. Yeah. It wasn't on her. Yeah. It wasn't her fault. She didn't know she was pregnant, and now you're charging her with all these really intense things. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, bringing back all of this, like, traumatic stuff that you haven't thought about. Because she's 60 years old now. Like, from almost 20 to 60, that's a whole bunch of time.
Well, and in the 80s, I mean, look at women's health care now. I mean, in the 80s, it was a lot worse, and right now, it's pretty fucking shitty. Right, because they've even admitted that all tests and all studies are done on, primarily on men. Mm-hmm. They're starting to doing things on women, right, and they're finding that things are very different.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh, wow, big fucking surprise. And things are unfortunately taking a back step.
Yeah.
For women's health, and just to think that like even in the 90s, it wasn't as accepted.
Right.
I remember I had a friend, and this is part of the reason me and this person are not friends anymore, but that kind of is a base thing. But she was promiscuous and had was dating this one guy, and she got pregnant and she had an abortion. Mm-hmm. There's no problem in doing that. Like, if you don't think that's something you can take care of, if you think that that's not the time.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons that,
Right. She was very, 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 very pro-life. And I was like, well, wait a second, you have had an abortion. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, but that was a special situation. Very pro-life. And I was just like, so you mean... But by saying that you're pro-life, you're taking that same opportunity that you had away from somebody else that's in a worse situation.
Right.
Like, granted, you were being abused by the person you were with. Mm-hmm. It was a bad situation. You left him, whatever.
Right.
You also come from a family that has means, and you would be able to take care of it.
Right.
Or there's other options.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that.
Right.
And it's not a special situation. It's just special because it applied to you.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that was something that I was just like, well, wait a second, hold on. Your math isn't mathin'.
Right.
And I just... Personally, I don't know if I could ever do it, but at the same time, I'm never going to judge somebody because I don't know their situation.
Right. I don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why when I was looking at these cases, like...
Do they know who the father of that baby is for the 19-year-old girl?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's funny that in neither of these cases was the father brought up.
Right. The father wasn't brought up. It's all on on her.
Yeah. Well,
which,
Nancy's it was. Hold on.
Nancy's it was.
Yeah.
But, like, even then, like, you know that you slept with this person. Mm-hmm. Like...
Yeah. Yeah.
You might if you're going to be charging all of them with first degree murder and like involuntary manslaughter, like
where's baby Andrew's dad? Do you know who that is? Do you have a DNA test for that?
Right.
I mean, granted, it didn't come out of him specifically.
Right, but where does that responsibility really fully lie?
Does he get like some type of like second degree murder because he knew about it,
right?
Or at least like aiding and abetting? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Aiding and abetting a fugitive, like
There's so many questions
if they're getting this amount, like, I'm not saying that they should.
Right.
Like, by any stretch of the imagination. Right. But if these people, such as Nancy and the 19-year-old girl, are getting these crazy amounts,
right,
then they're aiding, abetting. There's...
Right.
I'm not a lawyer, but I can name off at least like 15 things that they should be getting. And why is their name not in the article?
Yeah,
like,
you're the one who got her pregnant.
Yeah.
Did you do anything with the remains? No, but, like, you also didn't do anything with the... you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be so harsh on women, the men are being held to a totally different standard.
Right.
And then also, like, all of the relevance now politically is just, like... It was really hitting me in a lot of different ways when I was reading this. And, like, there's really not that much to it, but at the same rate, like, there's so much, like, to unpack with it. Yeah. Like, all of the little tiny nuance things that to think about. And, like... It's just wild. And all of this started because somebody wanted to take a little DNA test. Yeah. And now their grandma's going to jail. Like...
all just because I wanted to know if I was Russian or Ukrainian.
Right.
Like, well, Jesus.
Yeah. And now, like, the whole family dynamic is...
And now your grandma's going to jail for life.
Right. So, like, how is that going to feel for the person that also took the DNA test?
How did they find did the 19-year-old girl do an ancestry? I didn't hear you say that.
No, it was, like, a granddaughter or whatever who did the test again.
Who did the test again.
It was another relative that did the test, and they ended up tracing it back to her through the remains of the body.
Like, I hate everything about that.
Right.
And, like, all my cousins and everything, like, they are very into the family tree on my... I don't really talk to my mom's side, but on my dad's side. Mm-hmm. And so they're, like... Because we come from a long line of, like, people that do that. You know, people that do that. They're really into that. Yeah. I personally am not, you know, whatever.
It takes a lot of time.
And they're really into it. Like, they have it all listed. They have it, like, a whole spreadsheet. It's crazy. They have even, like, people's pets on there. Like, it's...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But... I'm sure that because of all that, my DNA is all over that place.
Yeah,
like,
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And, like, how do you feel as the person, like, if you took that DNA test and they were like, oh, well, we found that your grandmother had killed somebody. Right. Like, you're gonna kind of feel like shit if you get a phone call that, hey, your specific DNA was traced back. Now your grandma's in jail for 60 years.
Yeah.
Like...
Fun little fact, which I This is not a true story. Let me start with this. This is not fact. This is fiction right now. So my dad was a professional. He was a psychologist, and he would always show up to like any of my sister's sports games. Jesus Christ, like softball games or like my soccer games or whatever. He would always show up in a business suit. And he would even go to, like, my cousin's games, because they were all very athletic, and he'd always show up in, like, a business suit, like, suit, tie, like, every time. Mm-hmm. And there was, like, and I had no idea about this, but apparently, like, all of my friends and, like, cousins and everybody, like, had this underground theory that he was, like, part of the mob or, like, the mafia or some shit. And I was just like, no,
that's
he's
really
a shrink.
funny.
Yeah. You met my dad. There's no way. Like,
unless, like, what weird secret does your dad have?
You know what? Actually, I take all that back. Like,
maybe if you take an ancestry test, he'll be linked to all these crimes.
Oh, shit. That would be crazy.
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you do an ancestry test?
I didn't do one, but I had an ancestry account for a little bit. I felt really bad, too, because I went, after looking at all this, like, I logged into mine, and I don't have the subscription anymore. Yeah. But when I did, I was, like, looking into everything and trying to, like, get into doing a family tree, and I was like, this is going to take too much out of me. Yeah. But, like, they have a wild amount of information on there. Yeah. Like, I found, like, my uncle's social security number just, like, hanging out. And, like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
And then I had found, like, a relative, and I sent them a message, like, 4 years ago, and they didn't respond, and I never got a notification, and when I looked, it was, like, 4 days after I stopped looking that they responded.
Oh, no.
And
So
I was like,
oh.
Well, I don't want to be, like, now, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, so I haven't logged in here.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. But, like, it's the wild amount of information that they have, and that's just, like, at access.
Yeah.
And then the amount of crimes that still aren't being solved. Like, because I also read another thing that was, like, before DNA, the solve rate was at, like, 90-something% because they were just convicting people. And, like, now you have to have so much more evidence, but even then it's only, like, 50% of the crimes that they solve, and, like, still people are wrongfully convicted. So, like, is really having access to my eye color because you had my great-niece's DNA, like,
really
is that really helping you?
Well, and that's the other thing, too. Like, I mean, granted, like you said, they were just convicting whoever. You know, they didn't have that one. They were going by fingerprints, but, like, they found that, granted, fingerprints are unique to everybody, but DNA is more accurate.
Right.
Just like they used hair strands before DNA. Mm-hmm. They're now finding that hair strands really don't tell you much.
Right.
Unless it's, like, real fresh, it's got DNA on the root or anything, but that usually falls off.
Yeah.
But, like, that can't tell you anything.
Right.
They can match a dog hair to a dog hair, but that's really about all they can do. And that used to be the science of the day. Yeah. But I also, when there is a case that is solved that is hopefully correct, you know, I love the way, and that's why I usually do the older cases, that they have to use, like, the old school detective skills, you know, to solve it. But nowadays they have the DNA, but I mean,
it makes you wonder, like, what's going to come after DNA. Yeah. That they're going to be like, actually, this really isn't accurate.
Yeah. Like, and they're like, oh, shit, all those people that, you know... God, that's crazy. Yeah. That's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. It, like, it makes you super uneasy to think about. Like, 2%. That's such a small, small. Yeah. There's so many people.
And I know on my mom's side, I have no idea, like, where she came from. Because she was half adopted, and then her mother was full adopted. Mm. So, we have no idea where they came from.
Yeah. So you don't know what you don't know what you've got.
No.
Like, yeah.
But my dad's side, we've got Ukrainian. We were, like, at the Ukrainian-Polish border, so that's where we were from. Yeah. But either way, where are your family roots? Do you know?
Poland and like all that area.
Yeah.
What's the Croatia. That's the other one. All those guys right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, like, both sides of my family are from the same area, so. Yeah.
Funny how they kind of stick together, right? It's funny that there's more Polish people in Chicago than in Warsaw. That's like a fun little fact that I know.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I have for...
I hate everything about these.
I know. It's really sad in so many ways, and then it also makes you really angry at so many people.
Right.
Yeah.
Like...
It's just a ball of feelings that I was just like, I don't know what to do with these now.
So, this may be a question that I'm just asking because for shits and giggles, but do other countries have things like this, or is this, like, worldwide, or is this...
That's a great question, because I know that ancestry and GED match thing is like specific to the U.S. as far as how many people they can find.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a thing in other countries, but that's a really good question.
So if I had like a cousin in
like I would
the
imagine
Ukraine or whatever.
Yeah. I would imagine that it would be, but I think it also depends on like how. There's so much with other countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, hell, we don't know what's going on. There's a lot going on.
There's so much going on with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hashtag free Luigi. Whenever I get overwhelmed, that's just like what I say.
Yeah.
Kinda
clears
like,
the slate mentally.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like during like COVID, when like everybody was calling it like everything besides pandemic, like saying like panoramic or like whatever. That's what I do when I get overwhelmed. I just go hashtag free Luigi.
Honestly, it was kind of nice. Like I had so much going on and like bubbling in my brain. You said free Luigi, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like hashtag
I can breathe again.
Yeah, right. Like
yeah,
we're gonna free Luigi.
Yeah.
This is gonna become like a free Luigi podcast.
It's like that guy that's like dancing outside of the prison every day, but just on the podcast.
Just at some point during every episode, I'll just hashtag free Luigi. Just throw it in there somewhere. I mean, sorry.
Get real creative. Like make it like the first letter of like every sentence you say spells out free Luigi.
How would I do a hashtag?
I don't know. You just randomly say hashtag.
For those who don't know what pound is, that was hashtag before hashtag. I can't. Oh my god. Pound.
Just really mess it up and be like pound Luigi.
We mean no disrespect. But yes. Oh, Luigi. Oh, did I tell you I bought a Luigi hat?
No.
Like an actual like Luigi hat?
Oh, that's so
fun. That,
fun.
like, you know.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of the red.
Yeah. Very Christmas colory in America right now.
Red, the blood of angry man. Okay, so now it is time for the reefer review.
Yay.
I did the green apple mittens extract, which you missed this because my fucking thing stopped recording. But the mitten is not a cat.
Or a rabbit.
Or
I thought it was a rabbit when I glanced for a second.
I'm like, what does mittens have to do? Like, when I think of mittens, I think of kittens.
Yeah.
Kittens in their
Right,
mittens.
yeah.
I don't think of the state
the
of Michigan.
Because the shape of it. But it's got the extra piece, so it's not a mitten,
It's
people.
not a mitten. It's a mitten with,
It's a mitten that's seen some stuff.
Yeah, it's seen some shit, man. Yeah. But, so, this was so, I'm gonna only give this a 4 out of 5 puffs, even though I do feel stoned as shit, and this was, I had a good time tonight. It was a good story, not good time, that's not a great way to word it, but, it was a great story, but I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, just because I had to have 80 milligrams, and I feel like that's a lot. But, remember, even though it's 4 out of 5 puffs, it's still only Puff Puff Pass. And social medias, I try to keep up with Instagram, but you can find us at stirthepot_pod. We're going to try and do other social medias. We'll see what happens. Just keep a lookout.
Yeah.
But we're coming back. We're doing this.
Yeah.
We're getting a couple episodes under our belt. We're doing great.
Back and better than ever.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't wait to I really want that picture that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I need to find somebody that does that kind of stuff. Or, like, I really don't want to AI something, but I have no idea that does that kind of artwork.
Yeah,
so,
AI is icky, but also
I know.
it's kind of helpful.
I know. Yeah, so, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I want to call it, because era, everyone's in their era.
Mm-hmm.
Era 2.
I like that.
Yeah, so, Stir the Pot, era 2.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that was a really bad.
What
this
was
is a really dumb thought.
Tell me.
Because I was like, wait, Shaggy and Daphne is like SD Scooby Doo, and then I was like, wait, no, it's Velma.
Oh yeah, right.
That doesn't work. SVU.
SVU. SV. You should listen.
Yay!
That could be your little jingle. SV. You should listen to our podcast. We'll give listen. Shit.
It's just the, like, Uncle Sam poster. SV wants you to listen to their podcast.
I love
You can find someone who can draw that.
Oh my god. Hold on, I need to write this down. SVU as Uncle Sam should. Oh my god, so I don't forget it because I am high. Okay.
Thank you for listening to Stir the Pot, and remember, #FreeLuigi, and stay dangerous.